Good morning and welcome to church. Welcome to First Unitarian Church of Oakland. My name is Amy Carlson and I am part of the Committee on Shared Ministry here to do our welcome and land acknowledgement today. So we welcome you whether you are in our physical sanctuary or our sanctuary on Zoom this morning. We are committed to becoming an intentionally multi-generational, multiracial, multicultural, inclusive, and anti-oppressive religious community. You are welcome here. If you'd like to find out more about our church, we invite you to fill out the Newcomer Connect card online. You can get it by using the QR code that's on the welcome card that is behind some seats. You can also find it via a link on our website or write your contact information on the Stay Connected form located on the welcome table in Venti Hall, which is over here. And then we'll be in touch. Like many UU churches, First Unitarian has a tradition of offering summer Sunday services crafted entirely by congregants. We get the chance to hear new voices and get to know some of the talented people who call this church home. On September 7th, our regular minister, Reverend Laurel Leifert, will return to begin the new church year. And one more thing, newcomers, Emily Stoper is in the back. I see you, Emily, thank you. Invites you to a 10-minute conversation where you can get the answers to all your questions about the church. Meet her in front of the pulpit right here after the service. Welcome, everyone. And now, if you'd please join me in our land acknowledgement. We acknowledge the land and the peoples who belong to this land, the Lashan Ohlone peoples. Our church, institutions, and homes are occupying their lands. We acknowledge that the lands were stolen from the Ohlone peoples, who have an ancestral relationship with this land. The plants, the animals, and the water, for millennia, continuous to this present day, Ohlone people are still here. In solidarity with all indigenous people and their right to self-determination and justice, we commit to working toward accountability for the theft and toward being active partners in the healing of the intergenerational trauma which persists to this day. Amen. So may we live. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Corliss Smith. I'm your worship associate for today. Will you join me in doing our chalice lighting? We have motions that go with it. If you know them, you can do it. So we say, we light this chalice, symbol of Unitarian Universalism. May it remind us of the spark in all creation, the power of love to heal what is broken, and to be grateful for life's blessings each day. We also light candles for both peace and Black Lives Matter. Jack Kornfield. True peace comes with the discovery that we can respect the seasons of life with a spacious and undefended heart. In it, we learn to trust, to rest in the truth of the way things are, to willingly accept the measure of joy and sorrow we are given. Please say together, peace is possible. Kofi Annan, former head of the United Nations, wrote, "There is no trust more sacred than the one the world holds with children. There is no duty more important than ensuring that their rights are respected, that their welfare is protected, that their lives are free from fear and want, and that they grow up in peace." Together we say, Black Lives Matter.
Good morning. I'm Lucia Savage. I'm a member, and this is Corliss Smith, who is also a member. Before I do the call to worship, I just want to thank the behind-the-scenes helpers, Sarah Watts, who did the slides, our sound crew, Vincent, who's doing the piano, and behind Vincent, Renee, who helped me put together the music today. So just remember, when we do worship together, it's not just the one or two people who are standing up here, but it's a whole community that puts the worship together for all of us. So why are we here on a Sunday morning? Why do many of us come reasonably regularly? What draws us to this group of people, this building, this liturgy, when we could be sleeping in, eating brunch, watching a soccer game, or reading a big fat Sunday newspaper? Let's find out. And together we say, "Come, let us worship together." Please rise now as you're able and join us in our first song, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
A few years ago, I had visited the Shaker community in Kentucky. I should say what the buildings that used to be the Shaker community, because they didn't believe in sex, having it, that is, and so they died out. They also died out because their main product were these very high-quality brooms that were killed by vacuum cleaners. But that's not why I'm bringing it up. What struck me the most was the importance of singing and dancing in the Shaker tradition. It seems that people sang almost all the time, and singing was the basis of the lifestyle they described as joyful, despite no sex. When people in our church were asked what they liked most about our worship services, many said music was really important to them. That's no surprise, because music can make us feel good, both physically and mentally. We know that singing makes us feel good, and there are significantly scientific, proven benefits to singing by yourself and better together. On a very basic level, singing improves lung function and strengthens the muscles we use for breathing. And by increasing oxygen intake, it can lead to more alertness and mental clarity. It also contributes to cardiovascular health. And you'll be very happy to know that singing is an aerobic activity. It improves blood circulation, strengthens the heart, and can enhance immunity by reducing stress hormones. It improves memory, and it reduces anxiety and depression, especially if done in a social setting where it increases social connection. The social connection is extremely important when considering singing hymns in church. Recently, Lucia asked people to name their favorite hymns. When I looked over the list, I was struck with how similar their meanings were. Many were uplifting, which is no surprise, and they were about courage and connections and belonging. Blue Boat Home was one of the most cited favorite hymns, which I think we're singing today. Thinking of ourselves as all snugly inside the same boat stresses our connections to each other and our relations to the earth. And I always think of the church as sort of an upside-down ship that we're in together. Folk singer Pete Seeger was a great advocate and practitioner of group singing. He deeply believed in the power of communal singing as a force for social change and community building. It fostered connection and inspired collective action, uniting people around shared values and causes. He emphasized participation over perfection. He said, "There's no wrong note, just as long as you're singing along." He believed in the power of singing to transform strangers into a unified group through the act of singing together. He said, quote, "In each of my concerts, there are some old songs which you and I have sung together many times before, but which always can stand another singing, like another sunrise, like another kiss." This is also an act of affirmation. Singing also connects us to all those who sang before us, just about everybody. In Seeger's words, our songs are, like you and me, the product of a long, long human chain, and even the strangest ones are distantly related to each other. Each of us can be proud to be a link in this chain. Recently, to further strengthen this chain, Nancy Henderson and Tamara Ha put together a brief songbook to help us sing together at marches and demonstrations. Thanks to them. And I must also speak about our wonderful choir. I'd never sung in a choir before when I joined, but I managed those first few hard months largely because of the other choir members who were very helpful, and truly, we have very fine leaders, Susan Kiter and Renee Witten. If you have any inclination to join the choir, do it. Don't miss the opportunity to work with Susan and Renee. It's such a joy. So, when we rise in body and spirit to sing a hymn, it's good for us in so many ways. Our physical and mental health, our inspiration to keep acting for the things we believe in, and in building our connections with each other. Hallelujah. Amen.
Speaking of social connection, we're now going to take a few minutes to greet the people around you on the seats, and especially give warm welcomes to people who you may not recognize. They may have been coming for a while, but you didn't quite overlap with them on your Sundays. But when you hear Vincent start playing the music for our next song, please take your seats. We'll now greet each other. And if you feel like it, you can turn around and wave to the camera over the sound booth, because that's all our Zoom people. Thank you. I'm going to do a reading now from A. Powell Davies. He was minister at All Souls Church Unitarian in DC in the 1950s. And unfortunately, despite all my best efforts at research, I can find many, many copies of this essay, but not the year it was written. So I cannot tell you when it was written. This is what he wrote. I come to church and would, whether I was a preacher or not, because I fall below my own standards and need to constantly be brought back to them. It is not enough that I should think about the world and its problems at the level of a newspaper report or a magazine discussion. I must have my conscience sharpened until it goads me to the most thorough and responsible thinking of which I am capable. I need to be reminded that there are things I must do in the world, unselfish things undertaken at the level of idealism. Workaday enthusiasms are not enough. They wear out too soon. I want to experience human nature at its best and be reminded of its highest possibilities, and this happens to me in church. In a congregation, we share each other's spiritual needs and reinforce each other. In some ways, the soul is never lonelier than in a church service. That is certainly true of a pulpit, for a pulpit is the most intimately lonely place in the world, yet it is a loneliness that has strength in it. Perhaps this is because the innermost solitude of the human heart is in some paradoxical way a thing that can be shared, that must be shared, if the Spirit of God is to find a full entrance into it. We meet each other as friends and neighbors anywhere and everywhere, but we seldom do so in the consciousness of our soul's deepest yearnings. But in church, we do, in a way that protects us from all that is intrusive, yet leaves us knowing that we all have the same yearning, that same spiritual loneliness, the same need of assurance and faith and hope. We are not merely an audience, we are a congregation. I doubt whether I could stand the thought of the cruelty and misery of the present world unless I could know, through an experience that renewed itself over and over again, that at the heart of life there is assurance, that I can hold an ultimate belief that all is well, and this happens in church. Life must have sacred moments and its holy places. The soul will always seek its nurture. For religious experience, which is life at its most intense, life at its best, is something we cannot do without.
Now is the time in the service when we share our joys and sorrows. We share them with one another in an embracing meditation. When I sound the bell, please speak the names of those you want to celebrate and those who you'd like us to remember with sympathy and help.
All my friends in DC.
And the people of Gaza and my son Timon. Together we say, we hold them in our care.
I'm going to share with you a reading from Wendell Berry as the introduction to our pastoral prayer. This is the Peace of Wild Things. When despair for the world grows in me, and I wake in the night at the least sound, in fear of what my life and my children's lives may be, I go and lie down where the wood drake rests in his beauty on the water, and the great heron feeds. I come into the peace of wild things who do not tax their lives with forethought of grief. I come into the presence of still water, and I feel above me the day-blind stars waiting for their light. For a time, I rest in the grace of the world and am free. Please now take a moment of your own to rest in the grace of the world, and if you choose to do so, to pray. She needed to sit a moment in the still. Please rise as you're able to sing our next hymn, Blue Boat Home. have to tell you, you can't see this, but I can see you all swaying to the 3/4 beat of that hymn, and it was just truly lovely. What is date night? I'm a late baby boomer with kids born in the 1990s, and as a mother who worked in the home and at an office, I was surrounded by the concept of date night. The night of the week for a pair of parents to set aside for themselves without kids, to turn towards each other, to nurture or rediscover that spark that led them to be a couple in the first place. The millennials and Gen Zers, hopefully they'll tell me after church, probably call date night something else because they have baby moons. If you did not know, a baby moon is when the parents who are pregnant take a trip before the baby is born to strengthen their relationship as a couple. Anyway, a conversation with a friend recently about being a regular churchgoer or not got me thinking, is church like date night? That one time of the week that is set aside to nurture the spark? You hold dear the ideas that all are worthy, all are welcome, that revelation is not sealed by some words written down 2,000 years ago, that all life is precious and interconnected. So in getting ready for this sermon and to collect some data on that interconnection, I offered congregants the opportunity to say which hymn or music, when they heard it at church, made them go, I'm at church. I knew that people's diverse musical loves were important illustrations of why a person comes to church and what makes them want to keep coming, to have a date night, not a one-day stand. I was curious to see whether there were key songs that were core to many of us and our experience of church. One song that came up is, we are the ones, we've been waiting, and we'll sing that later. Another song is Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. A third song that we just finished singing a little while ago, For All That Is Our Life, came up, and I asked the person who suggested that, and they said, because of the phrase, to build the common good and make our own lives glad. For me, the hymn that really does it for me is an oldie. It's number 1 in the hymnal. It's May Nothing Evil Cross This Door, and it's a metaphor for me. And it goes, may nothing evil cross this door, and may ill fortune never pry about these walls and windows, may the storm go by. I love that hymn. That moment, I don't know the specific word for it, but you've all felt it at some time, I hope. That moment when it all falls into place. Maybe you get goosebumps and misty-eyed. Maybe your heart rate slows down. And religious rituals are full of this kind of moment for all kinds of religions and all kinds of spiritual practices. For the Abrahamic religions, which is where our roots lie, it can be the totality of the liturgy, which follows a set calendar as precisely as the days of a week. Catholic communion and confession every Sunday, Islamic prayer rituals, including times of day and body postures. For Jews, specific prayers on specific days. All 3 Abrahamic religions have particularized ritualistic litanies and patterns as to what occurs at the appointed time and when, and typically but not always, in a specific building. There may be ritual foods to eat and not eat as reminders of rules set by an omniscient God, or specific clothes, from head coverings to underwear with particular ribbons on it to full body clothing. For people for whom this all works well, it's like putting on well-worn jeans. It just fits. For others, however, such rituals, while familiar and maybe comforting, come with a set of beliefs that sometimes just don't fit. That's what happened to me. I grew up as the only person in my very Reformed Jewish household to go to Sabbath school, to begin to learn Hebrew, etc. But at a certain age, I just did not believe that any one set of beliefs made me part of the chosen people. To this day, certain Hebrew prayers remain in my brain, and I can get misty-eyed when I say them. But I just don't believe the theology. It doesn't fit. Other rituals can be more than stifling. They can be oppressive. They can be associated with terrible oppression and emotional violence or physical violence. So rituals that are that intense are not a date night for anyone. and that's not what I'm here to talk about, but I did want to acknowledge it. Outside of Abrahamic religions, other spiritual paths have their own specific rituals, from meditation to physical practices like yoga, to sweat lodges, ritual dancing, or vision quests. And often these occur within a community setting at an appointed time. A common theme then is both a gathered group, hi everybody, and a specific reason or specific time for the ritual. While this is not a sermon about anthropology, I expect were I to go down that path, I'd find some evolutionary biology or anthropologic explanation for this combination of ritual at a specific time within a particular community. Which brings me to the conversation that inspired this sermon and its title. I have a dear friend who was raised Catholic. In fact, her father was preparing for life as a monk when he met her mother. They went on to have 4 kids. Both mother and father died 14 months apart after more than 60 years of marriage. In any event, my friend's first marriage occurred at a cathedral that was the seat of the local archbishop. She and her husband intended to be the same happy Catholic married couple they'd been for 6 years since high school. Unfortunately, it did not work out, and that marriage was annulled, an idiosyncratically Catholic thing since divorce is not allowed. Later, my friend married a Jewish man from a very Reformed household and adopted many of the holiday rituals that occur at home in Jewish practice: Sabbath candles, Passover Seder, Hanukkah, etc. And she has abandoned her Catholic church-based rituals in which she was raised, like communion, confession, the whole thing, completely abandoned. But she has also not replaced the church-based Catholic rituals with synagogue-based Jewish rituals. Rather, where she finds her recentering is in nature, outside, in the woods, as much as possible. This is like our religious ancestor Emerson, who says of being in nature, quote, "There I feel that nothing can befall me, no disgrace, no calamity, leaving me my eyes which nature cannot repair. Standing on the bare ground, my head bathed in the blithe air, and uplifted into infinite space, all mean egotism vanishes. I become a transparent eyeball. I am nothing. I see all. The currents of the universal being circulate through me. I am part or particle of God." And it's not just Emerson. Emily Dickinson, Robert Frost, William Wordsworth, Thoreau, Wendell Berry, Mary Oliver, Joy Harjo all invoke the natural world as their connection to the divine. For my friend, having a date with a building weekly for religious rituals is oppressive. For me, coming to a beloved church building nearly every week is the opposite. It's nurturing. It refreshes my soul. It reconnects me to my true self. Just like date night is intended to help a couple nurture each other or reconnect to the core beautiful parts of their relationship, even if nothing is broken. It's soul maintenance, not just soul repair. The point of this juxtaposition is not that one way, buildings versus nature, is superior. No, it's the opposite. It's that we each need time, a time and a place that brings us back to our true self. For some of us, that is in a particular religious location or building. In thinking through why people go to a weekly religious ritual in a particular place, there seem to be 4 main reasons. 1, meditation and calm. 2, community connection. 3, personal, ethical, or moral resetting. And 4, an exhortation to do better. Meditation and calm. In Christian monasteries, there are a series of bells that mark the passage of time each day. When these bells ring, the monks gather for particularized rituals of prayer and song. In medieval Europe, the bells were ubiquitous, and before clocks were everywhere, were a way of keeping time for the entire community. The bells, matins, lauds, prime, terce, sext, nonas, vespers, and compline. When this system was first developed, life was hard. In Northern Europe, winters are cold. All the food must be grown, harvested, and preserved before winter comes. Despite the urgency of producing food, these times of day and their attendant bells signified moments when the monks stopped their work to reflect on God. After all, reflecting on God was supposed to be their primary purpose. Similarly, the physical and oral, meaning the ones we hear, A-U-R-A-L, steps of a fixed liturgy can bring a person to a point of meditation and calm. Removing one's shoes in preparation for Islamic prayer, lighting the Sabbath candles on a Friday evening in your home, a singing bowl to help you settle in for meditation. At All Souls Church Unitarian in DC, they have working bells in the bell tower. The bells were cast by the son of Paul Revere. There's a group of church members whose job it is to ring the bell before church starts every Sunday. It's pretty hard to hear the bells over the noise of the city. All Souls is on 16th Street Northwest, by the way, right in the middle of a current shutdown by the National Guard. But 16th Street is a through street that runs from the White House to the suburbs. But there is a ritual in it for the bell ringers, and it is an oral tradition calling the congregations to gather. Here at UU Oakland, maybe it's that moment of quiet in the sanctuary before church begins, or when you hear the prelude. To be honest, we're a talkative, hugging bunch. Remember how awful it was in the early days after COVID when we did not hug each other? So it's pretty hard to get that quiet sense of preparedness and anticipation in this building sometimes, but it's possible. For me, just arriving here and settling under the vaulted ceiling with the sower window to look at, that usually does the trick. These rituals send us signals that tell us to prepare for an actual date night. The signal might be picking up a babysitter, or making a reservation for dinner out, putting on different clothes, doing your makeup. For a spiritual or religious practice, the precedent rituals tell us that the time to reconnect to our best selves is here. We may settle and quiet ourselves, we may turn our cell phones off, we may breathe more deeply. When I first moved to DC and started attending All Souls, it was hard. The church is a very long traditional nave, not a vaulted redwood ceiling. The interior is white on white, the windows are clear, there's no stained glass. It was disorienting to try and settle without my physical signals of being at church. But after a few weeks, I realized it was not the building, but the anticipation of the community's search for truth and meaning that was my signal. It was not the building. It was the anticipation of the community search for truth and meaning that was my signal. But let's not forget my friend who finds her refocus time outdoors. What might her signals be? Perhaps it's a regular hike and just getting to the familiar trailhead. Perhaps it is putting on hiking shoes or getting to that first view of the hills and the panorama on your hike. If you have a dog, it's probably when you pull out the leash. What are your signals of meditation and calm? People also go to church to engage with community. When I asked Corliss why she wanted to be worship associate today, she said, "Because I like you," which was very sweet. I personally feel this sense of community when there are enough people in Hamilton Hall, that's the name of our part of the building here. It takes about 100 people, and that we sing a familiar hymn or song without the band, and the reverberations off the redwood beams reflect our collective voices back to us, and I just get goosebumps. Apparently, goosebumps from music are a legitimate neurological phenomenon, but that is like a sermon for another day. When we're gathered here, when we're gathered in our tangerine teas, siding with love, carrying our banner, that's a moment when the community connection shines through. In the No King's Day protests, I think it was Mickey Duxbury who commented on the church listserv that the tangerine tea presence inspired other people who were not in tangerine teas at the No King's Day rally in Dublin. Another example of community that can be found at church is in the ceremonies we share with each other, like weddings, memorial services, youth bridging, and baby dedications. Recently, we memorialized Betty Bobo Seiden, a member of this congregation for over 50 years. Betty was already a longtime congregant when I joined in 1984. Saying goodbye to Betty was achingly sad for me. But as a longtime member at Betty's memorial, I saw many other members and friends I had not seen for a long, long time. I saw my community. Yet our church is a growing, evolving, living organism, which is where child dedications come in. My two kids were dedicated here, and they're now 33 and 30, so that was a while ago. And many of the kids who sit down here in front on a normal Sunday were dedicated here also. When we have a child dedication, we're not dedicating that child to God. No, we're dedicating ourselves to the child. I must have spoken the child dedication litany 1,000 times during my 40 years as an adult UU, and always I get misty-eyed. It doesn't matter if it's my child, the grandchild of a friend, or a child whose dad I just met last week. It is the power of we as the community, dedicating ourselves to the nurture of the child so that they may grow up surrounded by love and cradled in the arms of peace. That is the moment where the power of church to connect us to community in a good way is manifest. Meditation and calm, community bonds, these are important and are core aspects of church as date night for many. I also am touched by and experience them. What keeps me coming to church, however, what makes me put it on my calendar for a date that nothing else interferes with, is what A. Powell Davies wrote in his sermon and essay, quote, "I come to church and would whether I was a preacher or not, because I fall below my own standards and need to constantly be brought back to them." Life is complex. The winds of antagonism across society and angry civil discourse buffet us every day, and it's been really awful for the last week. Let's just be honest about that. The headlines are terrible. And our personal relationships can be fraught. We may fight with loved ones. We may be busy with someone else's priorities, like our employer's priorities. If we're terribly unlucky, what we do to earn our daily bread may be in extreme dissonance with our personal values. We need to reconcile that every week just to have the energy to keep going. When these things occur, Davies is right. Church can be the place that calls us back to who we truly are. At least it has that impact for me. For my friend, the outdoors has that impact. But what is that impact? First, it is a moment to step back and examine one's week prior or the week ahead. As Emerson writes of how the fields and woods minister to him, quote, "I'm not alone and unacknowledged. The boughs nod to me and I to them. The waving of the boughs in the storm is new to me and old. It takes me by surprise and yet is not unknown. Its effect is like that of a higher thought or a better emotion coming over me when I deemed I was thinking justly or doing right." Second, it can be a moment to learn or be reminded of a larger truth. It's true. Here I am, a layperson, preaching in a hallowed pulpit, the pulpit at which Vivekananda spoke. But to be honest, I love nothing better in church than a sermon well drafted by a professional who has the background in poetry, theology, and sermon craft that I lack. I like the chewiness of it. The way a good sermon gives me something to think about regarding my place in the world or how I conduct my life. I like the fact that even if the events or ideas that inspired the sermon are far from my own personal experience at that particular moment in time, a good sermon will have threads of truth that I can pull on, that I can relate to. I find inspiration in how the whole church service, when pulled together effectively, creates a fabric of ideas. Sermons, readings, music weave together in a message that resets my moral compass for the week. I knew before I ever heard A. Powell Davies' words that church was a date night for me. A few hours a week to reset my moral compass, but his eloquence captured the idea. Which brings me to my last reason people might treat church like date night, the exhortation to do better. Let's remember as I start that UUs view sin very differently than traditional Abrahamic religions, and in particular, the Christian religions. But that's important to the story here. I was curious about this, and so I looked up how grave of a sin was it for a Catholic to not attend church every week. According to one Catholic website, it is actually a violation of canon law. Now, no one is going to arrest you for violating canon law, I think, or at least I hope not. But this does illustrate for some religions that some that many UUs have moved beyond and left behind, there is a reason to go to church because you should. But that same Catholic explanation, that same website also said, quote, "Likewise, the Sunday obligation helps to orient us spiritually. It can be easy to forget that Sunday marks the beginning of our week, not the end. In a sense, the Sunday Mass prepares us for the days ahead and sets the spiritual tone for the week, filling us with grace. By starting our week with the Sunday liturgy, we publicly profess with our whole being that we are children of God, working on being our best, most ethical selves." Get that working on it, like we don't arrive in the world presented that way. Frankly, I was surprised to see resonance between the reason I go to church and a Catholic teaching, because I don't really think there's one religion. I'm definitely not a Christian. So what about my hiking friend? I'm sure that her outdoor time recenters her. I know she gets plenty of inspiration for ethical and moral recalibration in her outdoor time. And I know that for millions of people, the very idea of church or synagogue or mosque building once a week to be lectured at is anathema, with a litany of reasons: abuse, oppression, hypocrisy, repression, racism, sexism, and the list is endless. The things done in the name of institutional religion are truly awful. And I don't just mean Abrahamic or European religions. Religious fervor has been used to divide people for millennia all over the world. It is a foundation for caste in India. It is being used right now in the US to separate Christian nationalists from the rest of us. Religion can definitely feed into our tribal brains in a bad way and shore up or exploit the us versus them mentality. Just think about Hindus and Muslims in the Indian subcontinent fighting for decades. Or think about the Middle East, where religious wars have separated Semitic people for more than 5,000 years, if you're counting by the Jewish calendar. But in daily life, I think most people need a regular time or place. They need rituals to help calm themselves and get ready for the brain and heart work of recentering, of resetting their moral compasses. I think most people need a date night that does this, and for me, that date night is coming here to church with you. So where does that leave us, especially in this moment where the president is excoriating our beloved city as his next target? It leaves us with each other, our diverse ways to spiritual paths, and our souls, if you will, so we can recenter ourselves each week, preparing for the work we have decided to share, whether that is singing to inspire, as Corliss discussed, or gathering in our tangerine teas. I hope you get your spiritual date night as often as you need. Blessed be. Oh, and I better look at the order of service because I don't know what comes next. And Corliss is going to introduce the offertory.
On Friday, a group of us put up a banner on the overpass down the street. It was oddly enough really enjoyable. And I'm grateful to Francis Kendall for organizing it so well. In between holding signs, waving at the cars whizzing by beneath us, I kept looking at the church. It's so solid and pleasing in its proportions. And it's one of the oldest buildings in Oakland. For one reason, because generation after generation has kept it beautiful, cared for it, and shared their talent and treasure to keep it going. You probably know where I'm going with this. Yeah. I feel proud to contribute to the ongoingness of First Unitarian and its commitment to justice and community. We're links in a long chain. Please celebrate our church with as generous a contribution as you can manage. If this is your first time, however, let the basket pass you by. Your presence is our best contribution. Will the ushers please come forward?
this on? Okay. One mic has a green light when it's on, mic has a red light when it's on. It's just confusing if you don't do this all the time. Could you please say with us the blessing of our collection to the work of the church, which is weaving a tapestry of love we call community. We dedicate ourselves and these our offerings.
All right, now for our announcements for the Sunday. If you stopped by Venti Hall this morning, you'll notice that the tables and the chairs are set up differently than usual. The church is preparing to host our public event with Human Library today from 1 to 4 p.m. Coffee hour will run until 12:30 p.m. today, and we are asking our community to clear out of Venti by 12:30 so that the church staff and volunteers can set up the room. As we've been announcing, this event is open to all and free of charge. You can stop by for one or more 30-minute brave conversations with human books that challenge stigma and prejudice. Please join today at 1 p.m. The annual Women's Retreat will be held this weekend in Loma Mar. We have a big group signed up again this year. If you have any questions about directions, payment, anything at all, please contact the coordinating team as soon as possible. And then two more. Oh, okay, we have the coordinating team. I was about to say, Emily's in the back in the coordinating team if you have any questions. And then Marilyn Schumacher from the Justice team is tabling for the UU Oakland side with Love apparel through August. Please pick up your pre-ordered items. There will be additional merchandise available for purchase. And lastly, members of the church are participating in monthly demonstrations and vigils against the proposed ICE detention center in Dublin. Boo. And at local immigration courts. So please talk to the Justice team to get connected. And I don't know if we have any members of the Justice team here today. There's Marilyn, and over here we have Mary. Okay, thank you.
For our closing hymn, we're going to do a round, and my beloved husband, Mark, is going to help me with this. So the way this round is going to work, this side of the room will be led by Mark, and you're going to sing the line. You can sing along with me now to learn it. Can I have a pitch? We are the ones, we've been waiting. You can stand if you want. We are the ones, we've been waiting. Great. Mark is going to lead you on that. And this side of the room is going to sing the other line. Now, many of you have seen this on video. It's got there's a Melissa Etheridge version of this song. There's a 9-part Sweet Honey in the Rock song. We're not doing that. We're doing the really easy one. So this part goes, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We are the ones we've been waiting for. Perfect. Okay, so the way this is going to work is Mark's going to start us off, and his side is going to sing their part, those 2 lines through once, and then I'm going to start this side. We're going to sing it together 3 times, then I will stop you all here, and Mark will finish up his side with 2 more lines of his part. You'll hear the drum from Vincent, and if you guys want to do some body movement, you were beautiful swaying before, this might be a good song to get your energy going on. So you want to get us started, Mark?
We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we've been waiting. We are the ones, we've been waiting.
Thank you, everybody, for the brave effort. As we extinguish this flame, let us look to see each other again on our date night. And remember that until then, the fire of commitment, the light of truth, and the warmth of connection burn on in our hearts. Amen, and blessed be.